Hi, morning, Father.
Good morning, Glenn.
Morning. And to all of you who have joined us also this morning, some of you may be first timers or you've been on our show before. Big welcome to you. Hi, Father. How are you?
I'm fine, Glenn. How are you keeping? You keeping well? Staying safe?
Yes. I think you just came in from the garden doing gardening for Mother Earth.
Well, not really, Glenn. Well, that's our topic this morning, isn't it? I mean, we are celebrating Laudato Si week, and it's the 24th of May will be the sixth anniversary of the publication of the Pope's Encyclical Laudato Si. So that's why we thought this morning we talk a little bit about the environment. I know much has been said about the environment already. Sometimes people think, yet again another, but little things that we do, I think, can make a difference, especially at this time when we're at home, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Many people will be wondering what's Laudato Si. They just know a bit more. So I think our viewers will be going to have a big session prepared for them.
Yeah, this morning. So we have some nice, interesting guests here this morning. Also international, local guests who are here this morning to talk to and share with us a little bit about the Pope's encyclical. I know people may have heard this word Laudato Si and may wonder what is it all about. Perhaps a little insight, a little window to Laudato Si. Well, I've been told that it's not an easy encyclical to understand. Hopefully, we'll try to get some key ideas this morning. I don't
80 pages.
Also, you have looked at it already. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I understand one of the guests is your friend, the Archbishop
right.
from
the Bishop Allwyn D'Silva, the auxiliary bishop of Mumbai. Let's bring him without much ado. Let's bring Bishop Allwyn into this conversation. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Bishop Allwyn.
Fine. Busy with the pandemic.
Yeah, things in India are pretty bad, isn't it?
Now we are reaching the peak and we are coming down. So things are getting better.
How are things in Mumbai, especially in Mumbai?
Mumbai is now getting better. There are less cases. The deaths are slightly high, but there are less cases. But the deaths are high compared to the first wave.
Okay.
Malaysia
so it's getting better.
So are you also in a kind of in a lockdown? Are the churches are also closed now? Yeah. So
the churches are closed. We are having online masses, and so there's complete lockdown. We hardly move. There's movement from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning for essential services.
Okay.
Otherwise, it is there's a curfew.
Bishop, when we heard of the level of the severity, Malaysia, we raised funds for India and we sent it over.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. During this wave, we have youngsters, 40, 50, 30 years old, even younger, and a number of priests and sisters. 118 have died in India. 118 priests.
Oh my.
Priests throughout India.
Throughout India, yeah. Maybe more, but so far we have got the number as 118.
Oh, okay.
So it was pretty bad, the second wave.
I guess we all are united in prayer, Bishop, to pray for to be freed from this pandemic for the whole world.
Thank you.
In Malaysia, in India, and everywhere. So, I mean, welcome to Catholics at Home. This is the first time we are having an international guest. So you are the first, and hopefully not the last, to be able to get more international guests on our podcast. So this morning we are talking on the occasion of the 6th anniversary of Laudato Si, which is on the 24th of May. Bishop, you have been, as I know, we have worked together in FABC for several years now, and you have come into FABC as the person in charge of environment. Bishop, tell us a little bit about yourself for our audience. A bit about yourself and how you got involved in environmental issues.
See, as a young child, I had a big garden. My parents had a house and a big garden. And so as young children, with my brothers and sisters, you would climb trees, play games, then eat fruits, different types of fruits and trees, and see butterflies and birds. So from young age, I had some sort of liking to the environment or to the nature. Then when I went to the seminary, if you have seen St. Pius College, we have acres of land, and there again we had trees, and we would work in the garden, and our hands would touch the soil. So once again, we would have a love for nature. But unfortunately, as we grow and we study philosophy and theology, we sometimes lose touch. And then after a number of years, we formed a group. The World Council of Churches started a group about global warming. At that time, it was called global warming. And we formed an ecumenical group. And I tell you, in the beginning, I couldn't understand any of these terminologies. It was so difficult, greenhouse gases and all these. It was new to me because I had just come out from theology and philosophy. But then slowly, this group helped us to reflect on. Then it changed to climate change, and now it is called climate emergency. And so this group helped us. So this reflection helped us. And then when I came to the FABC, of course, all of us used to reflect, and it changed my mind and it changed my heart. So I was touched, especially by Laudato Si, because 6 years ago I was in Rome before the Laudato Si Encyclical was published, and we shared our expectations, and we were looking forward to it, and the enthusiasm. We felt the enthusiasm among all the participants who were all over the world. And so that brought in my sort of ecological conversion.
By the way, welcome everyone who just came on board. Yeah, good morning to Rita, Philo, Aaron Paul, Celine, Jude Pinto, Valerie, and more on the way. Yes, Father.
I was saying to Bishop, when you talk about things like climbing trees, eating fruits, just reminded me of my own childhood also. And remember, of course the trees didn't belong to us; belonged to our neighbors. And when the neighbors were asleep, we kids were up the tree eating the fruits, the rambutan that was from the neighbor's house. Always the fruits from the neighbor's house tasted better than from your own garden, I think. Bishop, as you were saying that you were in Rome at that time with Laudato Si, with Pope Francis. Laudato Si is quite a significant document in terms of the church. I mean, prior to this, we have not had a singular document like this, which treats. What is the significance of this to the church with the publication of Laudato Si? Has it changed the orientation of many other aspects of church, of theology also?
You see, among us, if I tell you that your president has spoken or prime minister has spoken, you will listen. But if I tell you someone else has spoken, you will not listen. So when Pope Francis spoke about the environment, everybody started listening. And we used to do some sort of work with the environment years ago, but people did not pay attention to us. They said, yeah, these are the people, some queer people who are involved in the love for nature and creation. But as soon as Pope Francis spoke, the whole world, and even when I was in Rome at that time, we had a workshop, the whole world in a way got up. I went to Bonn after that meeting, and we shared our experiences or we shared our expectations. And one sort of lady put up her hand and she said, I am an atheist. I don't believe in God, but I am interested in what Pope Francis is saying about the environment. What Pope Francis is saying. So, and I think Pope Francis has come out as a very big leader. And therefore, whatever he says is very important for us as well as for other people. And therefore, Pope Francis talking about the environment brought about a significant change in the life of the church and the life of society also, civil society.
Yes, yeah.
And
Just sorry. Go ahead, Glenn.
yeah. So for those of you here for the first time, what you can do is you could tell us you're here for the first time with a number 1 in your comments, and you've been in our show before, so you give a number 2. How about that? Yeah. And how about for those of you who are from KL or PJ? How many of you are from KL or PJ? You could give a number 3. And if you're outstation, number 4.
So, Glenn, you're
Okay.
trying to engage with our audience to get some. And if you're from Mumbai, give us number 5. Following from
It's a number 5.
Bishop Allwyn.
Overseas, Mumbai, number 5.
So, Bishop, you were saying that about Laudato Si. Pope Francis spoken. I'm not sure how many people actually have read. Glenn says 80 pages. What would be the key takeaway from Laudato Si for someone who has not read the whole document? What would be some key points that you would like that we could highlight this morning for people to understand better?
Cardinal Turkson gave a nice summary of Laudato Si. He says Laudato Si can be summarized in 7 C's, ABC, C's, so that you can remember. One is care for creation. Laudato Si speaks about care for creation and how we should respect nature, and how consumerism is detrimental for the care of creation. So that is one aspect that Cardinal Turkson shared with us, and I was very much impressed. Second, he said conversation from Laudato Si, conversation. That means having a dialogue with various types of interfaith groups, having a dialogue also for immediate action, having a dialogue so that we can reach a consensus. So that was another C that Laudato speaks of. Another is continuity and collegiality. If you read Laudato Si, Pope Francis doesn't say that I am the first one to speak about Laudato Si. I am the first one to speak about sort of creation. He gives us a whole historical perspective. Started from John the 23rd and Paul the 6th and John Paul II and Pope Benedict. All these people have really spoken about the environment. I remember Pope Benedict, I think he started going in a environmental car or something like that. So Pope Francis says there's a continuity, and there's a collegiality between, he mentions also various bishops' conferences in the Encyclical who talk about the environment, who talk about climate change. So that is another C. Another C is ecological conversion. He wants us to be converted, in our mind, in our thinking, in our feelings. He needs a certain sense of ecological conversion, which will bring about a sort of respect for nature. Another thing is citizenship and contemplation. He brings out the idea that we are all citizens of the world. Okay, we are citizens of India and Malaysia and other places, but we are citizens of the world, and therefore, if we are citizens of the world, we have a common home, and therefore we need to take care. Another aspect that he brought out is contemplation. He says, go out and just look at the stars and look at the birds and look at, feel the water and feel the earth. And I think this is what we are doing during the pandemic. We have got a chance to look at the world and look at nature and really enjoy sort of nature. So these are some of the C's that he mentioned, and yeah. So these 7 C's help us to get to the uh,
Heart
to
of
the
Laudato Si.
guts of the encyclical. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess for our listeners out there, Laudato Si, the C in Laudato Si is SI and not Laudato Si as in our bishop described. So, but it's a nice way of remembering, isn't it? The 7 C's of Laudato
Yeah.
Si.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bishop. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that myself, of those 7 C's from Cardinal Turkson.
Very interesting angle.
Yeah.
It is easy to remember.
That's right. But it's interesting that you mentioned also, because some people think that prior to Pope Francis's encyclical, the Church never talked about the environment, and you pointed out so rightly that in different ways, in different forms, they have been talking. Popes have been talking. Regional conferences of bishops have been talking about it, which is quite clear in Laudato Si, as Pope Francis has also highlighted and alluded to. That's very interesting. Bishop, do stay with us. We want to just move in a little bit to look at how Malaysia looks at what do we do. So Glenn, you're thinking about let's bring
We have 2 more speakers.
let's bring Anthony into. Hi, morning, Anthony.
Hi, morning. Just to show my T-shirt. Yeah.
This is just to spite me. I think it's literally everybody, all the opposition that comes in, they know that so it's a little good banter this morning. The last day of the Premier League, right? This is the last weekend. Yeah, all right.
We're all sharing the same home, Father. Still sharing the same common home.
Yeah. So welcome, Anthony. Welcome to our podcast. It's great to have you here with us this morning to be able to share. Anthony, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Where do you come from, Anthony? I mean, what's your background a little bit? Yeah.
Okay.
And your concern for the environment.
I originate from Malacca, transported to Selangor in 1988 or so. To be very honest with you, I got into the environmental field because I needed a job. I actually went through a retrenchment in 2004, and I was offered a job in an environmental NGO called Center for Environment, Technology and Development Malaysia, SETDEM. It's run by Gurmeet Singh. Those people who are old enough will know that Gurmeet Singh is probably the grandfather or great-grandfather of environmentalism in Malaysia. So I started off as an officer looking at people's electricity consumption. Then halfway through my 1-year contract, I was offered the executive director's position in SETDEM. Came back, spoke with my wife, prayed about it, and then I saw that there was a reason why I was retrenched, because God was opening doors for me which I never ever imagined. My degree is in computer science, and I went into a totally different field.
And Anthony, yours is an unusual angle in caring for our common home. You've dealt a lot with sustainable development.
Yes.
And also what SETDEM does. Oh yeah, by the way, while I still remember, I'd like to tell the public, Anthony he organized a treasure hunt. He collaborated with, he joined venture with MBPJ, the Majlis Bandaran PJ, and he had a treasure hunt on a PJ level. It was all around PJ, and he promoted that we needed to use more public transport. Yeah, no motorized. Yeah, and then in fact I'm wearing your T-shirt. You say things like "Go green." Yeah, go green, exercise more. Yeah, be safe, sustainable development, etc.
So this morning is
about T-shirt promotions, huh?
No, but
You got one Liverpool, one.
just to mention about sustainable development.
Yes.
I gave a talk in Plentong
Sure.
early last year, and it was in relation to the Laudato Si rollout for their Lenten campaign. And during that time, I actually mapped the Catholic social teaching to the SDGs.
Okay.
So what we are
SDGs.
looking at, what the world has come up to accept as the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 in September of 2015, the Catholic Church knew early 1900s. So we are actually stumbling backwards to what the Catholic Church already knew from the beginning. Sustainability has to be implemented at the very, very lowest level.
Amen.
Anthony, just to, I mean, you've been involved in this area for quite a bit. What are some of the major concerns for Malaysia, for us, in the area of either it's sustainable development or in terms of environmental issues? What would be the top 3 issues that Malaysia is struggling with?
Right now, my expertise actually is in brownfield environmentalism. Just to let you know that there are various colors in environment. Green is people who are basically tree huggers. Blue are people who are interested in the ocean and the rivers. Brown are people like me who are interested in actually physical development. So from my perspective, one of the biggest challenges that Malaysia has today is in unsustainable development. The problem that we have today is development that is not being planned well. That's number one. Number two, we have a problem in terms of how we are using or converting land from basically from forest into non-forest usage. It could be for plantation, it could be for physical development, for housing and whatnot. And thirdly is the problem of human and wildlife conflict. Just to share with you, I went to Perbatang Pao just recently for my parliamentary project. Went to Baling, went down to Sepang Renggam and Muar. The biggest problem that we have today in these places is babi hutan, wild boar intrusion into villages, into what you call agricultural areas. So it shows that we are already encroaching into places that we are not supposed to. So these are the 3 areas which I believe to be quite serious in Malaysia today.
You mentioned parliamentary work. I also understand you're connected with the parliament. Please do tell us about your role also, Anthony, in the parliamentary group.
Okay, I'm the executive officer in charge of finance. Among some of the MPs, they call me Mani Tan. So it's the all-party Parliamentary Group Malaysia on Sustainable Development Goals. In Bahasa Malaysia, is known as Kumpulan Rentas Parti. When we go to Malay areas, they think that we are inviting the MP to jump to another party, Rentas.
Oh, that's why.
So we are non-partisan. We have pictures taken with DAP logo, PAS logo, UMNO logo. So we actually work with all MPs. And what personally I found is, no matter what arguments happen within the halls of parliament, outside on the ground, most, if not all, our MPs are seriously involved, and they do really care for the public. They really do care for the rakyat. And I find hope in that.
Yeah, but Anthony, I mean, do you find in your work, in your going out to work among people and to talk about this and to create awareness, is there excitement among people, or is there a kind of a sense of apathy among people when it comes to environmental issues or sustainable development or on the ground generally?
Well, Father, the thing is, when we what we do is in our research, we go to a particular area, we spend 3 days there, we listen to different groups of people, and we find out what are the issues on the ground. When we talk about sustainable development, they'll give you a blank look. SDG 1 on poverty, or SDG 2 on food, they'll give you a blank look. But when we talk with them and ask them what are your problems, the education problem comes out, connectivity with the internet comes out, job availability comes up. So people actually are practicing SDG 17 without knowing it, the 17 SDGs without knowing it. But what we want to do as the APPGM SDG is to educate the service providers from the government level. Those people who are at the district, those people who are at the municipal level, they have to see their role in actually bringing the sustainable development to the rakyat. I'll give you an example. The Jabatan Kebajikan is supposed to look into the cases of people who are having whether it's monetary problem or some other problem. The case is supposed to be sent to them, written, and then they are supposed to visit the person if the person is immobile. We have heard of cases of officers insisting that a paralyzed person come to the office to prove that they are paralyzed. Now, does that make sense to you? No, it doesn't make sense at all. And when we brought it up to people at ministry level, they shook their heads because this is not what the rakyat expects. And this is not what is expected by the people at the top. So there is a disconnect between what is being decided at the top and what is being implemented at the bottom. So this is where the APPGM SDG comes into place. We are working from bottom and bringing it all the way back.
So it would seem that the work that you do in terms of, you're talking about sustainable development, it's quite wide a wide area of concerns that you have.
Yes.
It's not just environmental issues, but it's also concerns people's lives, ordinary lives, in that sense. And I think it's quite interesting that. Yeah.
Father, I'll just share with you a very, very sad case. There's this place called Kampong Cawan in Kuching. It is built on a Chinese cemetery. The kampong exists on a Chinese cemetery. You look down on any of the flooring that is broken, you'll find a Chinese grave. And these people have been living there for 40, 50 years. Okay? They live in squalor areas. They are squatters. Which means that the environment is definitely out. Health is definitely going to be an issue. Work is going to be an issue. So what I'm trying to get at is all the sustainable development goals are interlinked. The environment cannot be taken out from the what you call business. Business cannot be taken out from people. It is all people, planet, and profit are all prosperity are all linked together. You disturb one, it will affect the next one.
Yeah, so I think the interconnectivity of the lives that we live, we can't compartmentalize, isn't it? I mean, I think listening to you, we can't compartmentalize that this is my life. I live in an urban area, so what happens somewhere else doesn't concern me. And I think sometimes we can be quite disconnected that way. People seem to think that, if it doesn't bother me, it's not my concern. And I think that's the danger. Is I think that the world that we live in, if it's not in my backyard,
and that I think that is one very strong message that comes through from Laudato Si. This whole idea of being united and having what you call communication among different communities, which is actually part of SDG 17, partnerships towards the goal. So again, I say that Catholic Church has had this kind of message going on for at least 100 years, but unfortunately, we are just stumbling backwards and finding it as we go along. So the environment, I often share this with people. If they say that Laudato Si doesn't connect to them, then please go and read Genesis chapter 1.
Yeah.
Because if God did not create everything, we will not have Laudato Si. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Anthony, one thing, in your whole experience in dealing with sustainable development and also linked to the environment, etc., and I know many of the listeners, we are quite urban, and we also have been sort of practicing the 3 Rs or 4 Rs: recycle,
Yeah.
reuse, reduce. Oh yeah, for those of you who do practice that, you could put up a number 6. I noticed some of you, a lot of you all responded, and some of you from PJ and even outstation, thumbs up. So if you do practice at home, like my parents and myself, we do segregate our waste and we do things for the environment in several ways. So where you found that there are still ways that we are learning that we could care for our common home. Yeah, we could go further into things, or maybe there are new things or not really popular. Could you share with us what are some of these ways that we could care for our common mutual home?
Okay, I'll do a plug-in for MBPJ right now. Those of you who live in MBPJ, you can actually get 100% rebate on your assessment for at least 1 year. If you, for example, if you do waste separation at home and you can show it to us, you get 20% off. If you do electricity savings by putting up a solar panel on your roof, you get another 20% off. If you do composting in your home, you get 20% off. If you have real good greenery, 50% soft skipping in front of your house, another 20% off. You have lots of trees around your house, another 20% off. 100% already. And that only covers only about 1/4 of the stuff that you can do. So start simple. Do simple things. I have an aircon. I'll be very very honest. I have an aircon. Aircon runs at 28 degrees. Why? Because in Malaysia we actually need a dehumidifier. Dehumidifier, not so much a aircon. Father, how many times you go to church? You find that church is running at 20 degrees. And people wearing jackets. People
Well,
wearing
both
jackets.
the churches I serve in
Yeah.
don't have aircon. Yeah.
Yikes.
So yeah, I mean, coming back to your question, are there any other local councils doing this apart from MBPJ, Anthony? And do you know of any other, councils who provide such provisions?
The only other city council that does it is in Taiwan.
Okay,
In
all right.
Malaysia, if those of you who are in PJ, if you haven't claimed for this, you better claim it, because when I give a talk on this particular item in whether it's Kota Kinabalu, Kuching, KL, Shah Alam, even in my own Subang Jaya, people ask me why we don't have. I say, please go and speak to your mayor lah.
Yeah.
If the mayor is
Fantastic.
not green,
MBBJ rocks.
so if the mayor is not totally green, is not going to work.
Yeah. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for that. I think it's a good insight for people who are in PJ. It's not just about claiming the rebate. I think it is about a consciousness of the care for the environment. Of course, that's an incentive to be able to
Yes.
do that, isn't it? That's
Yes,
an
Father, you're
incentive
right. You're right. The word here is incentive. It's just to kickstart. But after
Yeah.
that, it is your own conscience to make sure that things are going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay with us, Anthony. I mean, we will have this conversation in a short while, a little bit more. Glenn, I think, we have talked about Laudato Si, then we've talked about, what are the sustainable developments in Malaysia. And this morning, we started off this morning with a nice rendition of Hijau. In terms of, there are people who are also advocating this care for the common home through the arts, through music. So this morning, we have, let me say, a renowned artist here in Malaysia.
Christine Das.
Christine. Hi, Christine.
Father, are both of you related, Father?
No, she's a DAS. I'm a DASS. So I always say I'm a double S.
Fun fact, Father, I'm actually a DASS, but my father got my name changed to a DAS.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, Christine. Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome
Yes,
to
thanks for having me, guys. Thank you so much.
We're going to talk about animals now. Just now, wild
Christine.
horse.
Yeah, there are different people who advocate, this care for the environment, for nature in different ways. This morning, I mean, we started off with music, and we know that you are somebody who advocates care for the environment through your artwork. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved. I mean, what got you interested in art?
Oh, okay. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. I've from the time I've learned how to hold a pencil in my hand, I've always been doodling and drawing and coloring. So basically, I also come from a family of artists. So it's already in my DNA, so to speak. Any which way. I graduated as graphic designer, and then when I was hit with my midlife crisis, that's when I decided to become a contemporary artist. So that's how.
Speak closer.
Oh, that's how the journey began. Sorry, maybe because I'm soft-spoken. Okay. What basically happened that actually sparked this whole journey would be that in most of my life, in my 20s and 30s, I was a chronic depressive. And there came a time after my father passed away that I wanted to end my life. And at that point, I had my so-called divine intervention. This is how I experienced it. So at that point, I actually questioned this. Why was I given a second lease in life? Because prior to that, I never found any meaning in life. I didn't know. I didn't know why I existed. But because of this experience, I started to question it. And it was in this questioning that I came to a conclusion that I think my life has a lot more meaning. And I'm not going to sit in an office. I was a graphic designer at the time. I'm not going to sit in an office and not be able to contribute or make a contribution to the world, because I felt that I was not, I felt something was missing, and I think I had a calling, but I didn't know what it was. So after much thought and contemplation, I decided, okay, let me try this contemporary art. So if I'm going to embark in contemporary art, I told myself that it has to be attached to a very meaningful cause, something where I can contribute to the world. But I didn't know what it was when I embarked as an artist. Okay, I didn't know what it was. So at that point of time, it was also a time where I made a comeback to church. I'm one of those black sheep, prodigal daughter kind of story person. And so I had a powerful experience of Jesus, and but I was searching for God the Father, because that was what was lacking in my life, my relationship with my dad. And I remember asking Father Simon Lebroy. So this is how it all sparked, okay? I asked Father Simon, I experienced Jesus in the sacrament of the Eucharist. How can I experience God the Father? I want to get to know Him. I want to meet Him. And this is what Father Simon told me. He said, Christine, when you walk out of Assumption now, go to a flower pot. Okay? He said, go touch a leaf. I said, okay. So he said, when you have touched that leaf, you have touched the Father. You have experienced the Father. That was what he told me. And of course, for me, I was like, what? What is it? I couldn't comprehend it. It took me a while. But what he had instructed me to do really set off something within me, and I began to very seriously, because I was so desperately wanting to know God the Father. I really very seriously, I took his words so seriously that I began to do my own contemplation and experimentation with nature. Then I realized, because this was a lot of soul searching, right? and I began to undo myself, because I had bent myself so out of shape in my 20s and my 30s in life, being a very wild girl, that now I had to undo everything. I had to undo and unlearn and get to know myself. So this journey sparked that. And then it brought me back to the very core where, as a child, I actually enjoyed nature so much. And at the core, I actually love nature. And that is when I made the connection. So God the Father made creation, and I am that child that is in his embrace every time I'm in nature. That was how I made my connection with God the Father. So therefore,
Well, that's a very interesting faith journey, isn't it? I mean, in your work.
yes.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think that's a very powerful story. You know how your faith is also expressed, has brought you to where you are today. In fact, I think that's a very important thing. Christine, I mean, I've seen many of your works. I know you did the Stations of the Cross. I think in 2 churches. I think you've done in Church of St. Thomas More in Subang Jaya, and the other being
Cathedral.
Cathedral of the Holy Spirit. That's right. Yeah. I mean, nature has been your theme in many ways. I remember going to 2 of your art shows, one in Penang and I think one in KL, I believe. Maybe we just want to bring up some examples, and you want to tell us a little bit about what kind of a message do you hope to communicate in some of this artwork that you so painstakingly put your heart and soul into it.
Definitely. Okay. Actually, my journey as a wildlife artist began with the story of the elephants. That's when I knew that this is the reason why I was given a second chance to live. Okay, so I became a conservation artist, a wildlife conservation artist, way before Laudato Si. So when Laudato Si came to pass in 2015, it was to me an affirmation of my God-given life purpose. So it begins with the elephant. So the elephant that you just the elephant painting that you just put on screen. Okay, yes. So in 2013, in Sabah, there were like 13 pygmy elephants that were poisoned to death in a oil palm plantation. And these are the bonian elephants. And this is the first time I am actually learning that Malaysia had 2 species of elephants. We have the Asian elephants in Peninsular Malaysia, and we have the bonian elephants in Sabah. And the bonian elephants are just unique to Sabah. They are not found anywhere else in the world. So when this incident happened, I saw this orphan baby elephant. His name is Little Joe. And it was this little elephant that actually pointed me to wildlife conservation. So the elephant paintings, I do a lot of elephant paintings because I realized during my exhibitions that there are a lot of Malaysians who don't realize that Malaysia has elephants. Malaysia has a very rich wildlife biodiversity. They actually do not know that we have tigers, we have tapirs. So this is something that I learned during my journey as an artist. So this painting of the elephant, I know that, can you have the elephants up again? Sorry. I realized that we human beings, right? We have so much that we can actually take away from the relationships that elephants have as community and as family. So elephants, from what I know, they have very strong family bonds. They are matriarchal, so I like that women power, the women power notion of elephant herds, and how they care for each other. And elephants play such an important role in the ecosystem. Now, the elephants are the great gardeners of the forest. They help spread seeds. Not only that, because they are so big, right? They even help make pathways in the deep forest for little animals. So they play such an important role in the ecology of in the health of the forest. So our elephants are endangered. Yeah, both species are equally endangered, both here in Peninsula due to human human and wildlife conflict, deforestation, the loss of their habitat, roadkill. Roadkill is another one that's so popular now. All our wildlife are going because of this. And then, so the one that the most important thing that I advocate about elephants is don't go for elephant rides, okay? Because the elephants are abused and tortured in order for you to be able to ride them. So please don't ride elephants. Then we have our Malayan tigers. That's another feature in my painting. Well, we used to have like some 3,000 tigers post-Merdeka, and today we only have less than 150 individual tigers left in our forests. And the Malayan tigers are unique to Malaysia. It's our national symbol, and they are already considered almost extinct. So this is the saddest news for all of us, and we have all failed. I'm not going to say that just the government failed, but I think we have all failed, and we are all equally responsible because we were probably not aware of it, and maybe we didn't take a stand. We've not come out like people power, come out and say, hey, government, do something about our Malayan tigers. We have all been quiet, and this is what I call our sin of omission. So sadly, they are now, rushing to do something about the population of the Malayan tigers, but I think maybe we are a bit too late. So you will see trees also in my collection of works because of deforestation. Now I feel whether urban or forest, every tree is so important. So I'm so glad that MBPJ and Anthony, you've come up with this program where, if you have more trees, more greens, and appreciation of that, and that's an encouragement, because every tree houses a lot of life. I don't know whether anybody realizes it or not. There are a lot of insects, fungi, mushrooms, whatever organisms that is needed to live. They live on a tree. So when you chop down a single tree, whether it is in your house, your neighborhood, your parks, or the forest, you actually chopping down like an apartment building. It's an apartment building coming down. And at the same time, there is this whole big connection with trees. And then it becomes your forest. And don't forget, your oxygen and your water supply comes from the forest. So if you think the wildlife and the forest have got nothing to do with you, and then you are totally wrong. The day your tap runs dry and you are gasping for oxygen, that's the day you're going to realize how connected all of this is directly to you. So this is the type of message and stories that I tell people, because some of them are unaware.
True.
Yeah, unaware. It's connected to them.
I also hear a very similar message from you and from Anthony. This whole idea of connectedness, and I think that's a very powerful message that we could take back this morning in terms of our care for environment. That we are somehow connected to each other. In a world where we are virtually connected these days. And we strive for greater connections, whether it's internet or it's bandwidth. There is another aspect of connectedness that we need to be mindful of, and that is the environment. Perhaps we could take some questions. Maybe you could bring in our other speakers this morning into our conversation. So I think each one of you somehow contribute in a very unique and different way, and I think that's the diversity. Christine, you talk about diversity, the diversity of engagement with regard to environment. Bishop talked a little bit about his work of creating awareness, and he's got a whole program put up for environmental consciousness in Mumbai. He always sends us this information, and Anthony in sustainable development, Christine through art. Perhaps we just take some questions from our listeners this morning. I think there's this question from Irene Johnson. Perhaps I could address this to Anthony. How do we address more concretely about excessive usage of disposable plastic? throwaway culture, river pollutions, in a more simple way, maybe what can people do in order to be able to promote or to live a more green living, if I could use that word.
Thank you, Father, for that question. I think the first thing is one of the additional R's that we have to live with today is refuse. Refuse that plastic bag. When I started using my own bags to do shopping, the girl at the checkout counter give me this look. Are you from an alien world? It's free. You don't want. Okay? Then it became okay. I'll charge you at the payment counter. What people do now is they take the free plastic bag and roll them, and then take 20 of them and then walk out very, very innocently. I don't have to pay for this. So I think that's this whole mindset of I use, I throw, and it doesn't affect me. But do you know that every week we consume microplastic that is equivalent to a credit card? Every
Gosh.
week of the year, 5 grams. So these are things which I think people are just not aware of, and brings back to this question of education, Father. The education should not stop. Education has to be continuous.
Father, on Irene's question, because I also early on days before I told friends about it, and one of them told me there is a recycling center for those people in PJ. It's in Mutiara Damansara. It's actually a shopping center, the Ikano Power Center, IPC. So they handle recyclables. And what would incentivize people is they buy back. They would buy back certain items, plastics, paper, cardboard, tin, aluminium, and of course it has to have a certain weight. They will buy back. And something new, they will cater for food waste. Yeah, they would compost, or they would convert the food waste. It becomes fertilizer, and even your electrical items, yeah, your appliances, your old TV, telecommunication stuff, go to IPC. So you can get more info about this at ipc.com.my. You can drive in. You don't have to go into the mall, but you can drive in. It's at parking P1. So at ipc.com.my.
Father, if I can do a short plug-in for PJ and Nestle, they are having a project where they do house-to-house collection of waste, segregated waste, including the light flimsy plastic. Everything is
right.
collected. Okay, now the problem, and something that I shared with Glenn earlier, people think when they say I recycle means I separate. No, that's called segregation at source. The actual recycling is done at the recycling center. Now, if the recycler does not use up the plastic, does not use up glass, and it ends up in the landfill, that's not called recycling. It has to be 100%. So it goes back to this whole notion of circular economy.
So it has to be from the start to the end. The whole process has to be from the beginning to the end. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, just coming to Bishop Allwyn, to say, what could our churches or parishes, do to promote this kind of a, sustainable living, or even being a bit more conscious about the environmental needs from your programs that you have had, and are there some suggestions where parishes can be involved more concretely?
There is a program now started by the Integral Human Development, the Dicastery. They're having a 7-year program, and they're asking various groups to become sort of green. I'll just give you some of the groups. Families. So how can a family become green? Diocese. How can a diocese become green? Schools, universities, hospitals and healthcare centers, business and agricultural farm, and religious orders. So, of course, Bombay has been chosen as a diocese by the Vatican Dicastery for a 7-year program. So, they have given various footsteps during these 7 years. Like, for instance, can we have, can call it any name, can we have an Eden garden or a Laudato Si garden? Where in the parish, I have it in my parish. We have a garden. We have Saint Francis's prayer where people can come and sit down and reflect, and as Christian said, to touch the leaves and to touch sort of Mother Earth. So that could be one thing, so that people are reminded of Laudato Si. We call it Laudato Si garden. Another thing that which we do, and of course they call me a green bishop, that whenever I go, they don't give me bouquets and plastics and all these things. They give me a pot, a flower pot, so that I can take it back. And so these things can be introduced in a small way in our parishes also. Also, we have in many parishes and homes, I do not know, started the solar in our parishes. And we have encouraged, the Archbishop also has encouraged solar in our parishes. And so these are various steps. We have a lot of training programs. As Anthony said, we need an awareness program. So we have a lot of awareness program, and something which I'm going to start on the 5th of June. We are going to have a green movement. So we are getting about 40, 50 so far who have registered, who will be part of this green movement. And later on, there may be a turn to 100 and 200 and 300, and it will be people of all faiths. So we have worked out a roadmap where people from all over India will bond together and will do a certain action. And these are some of my thoughts.
A very, very practical, down-to-earth question. Either maybe Anthony, maybe more involved in this area, would like to answer. From Marcus, I think this is something that impacts everyone. How do you dispose rubbish without plastic bags? I think it's a very very simple, very relevant question.
Yes, very relevant, Father. It's the simple questions that are difficult to answer. First of all, whatever can be recyclable, remove from your garbage. Secondly, remove whatever is organic in matter and put that into a composting bin. You will end up with some garbage. I'm not saying that you will eliminate the total use of plastic, but what may happen is, instead of throwing out your garbage once every 1 or 2 days, you may end up throwing out your garbage once every 4 or 5 days. So you will minimize. The important thing is not to go cold turkey, because when people go cold turkey, they will quickly relapse. But if we go step by step, then the chances of success is higher.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. So I think that's something that that we all can do from home, isn't it? I mean, something that we all can be involved in some ways. Coming back to Christine, Christine, in terms of you, I mean, your concern has been also the wildlife, in terms of how do, I mean, you do it through art. How do you think, let's say, I mean, like us ordinary people, how can we create a greater awareness for the diversity of the wildlife in Malaysia, and also to be a voice to protect the wildlife in Malaysia?
So from my experience, I realized that what is really lacking is, like what everyone is saying, awareness and education. Because without the awareness and education, which is something even I myself personally went through, you would not have this consciousness. It won't build that conviction. Yeah. So because of that, through my art, I've also actually come up with a What's So Wild wildlife workshop, whereby people can come in fact, any organizations, whether it's church or corporates or even individuals as family and community, you can come and learn about wildlife one species at a time. Yeah, so it is also an art project. It is an art project with a wildlife expert. So it's a marriage between conservation and art, and it's kind of fun, and you will learn all the fun facts about wildlife and the forest and how it is directly connected to you. So this is one way of educating yourself. So you can always talk to me about that. But apart from that, I think.
But just before you move away from that, how do our listeners get more info about that? Where can we get more info?
Okay, at the moment it is I'm actually partnering an NGO, EcoMy, on this project. So we are planning to launch this on World Elephant Day, which is on the 12th of August. So in August, we plan to have a soft launch. So until then, if you want to know more about it, you can actually get in touch with me. Maybe I can give you an overall picture about how it works and what's going to happen. So you probably will see it on social media. If you're following me, you definitely see it. And I'll probably come and pitch it to the Catholic Church too, so that we can have So Wild about Laudato Si, and it can be a program that the church can also work together with us, and we can actually educate every single Catholic. So everyone will know about what wildlife we have and whether what you can do and how you can help. Because you will have a wildlife expert, which is not me, but a wildlife expert, someone who's in the field. So you will have the best information. And
so it looks like we have to bring you back in August into our show again to help us understand a little bit more about the wildlife in Malaysia. And I would admit it's something that when I was young, when primary school, one of the highlights of primary school is going to visit Zoo Negara. As a school, you take a bus and you go. That was the highlight. The highlight was getting out. The highlight was getting away from school. That was the bigger highlight than actually where you were going. But I think it's with kids today and children today. I think there's a greater need for parents to bring about this awareness with the diversity of the Malaysian wildlife and some of the concerns that we need to be aware about. And I think so Christine, so we'll look forward to having you back sometime in August to talk to us about this whole project and how families can get involved, how parents can get involved, how children can get involved, and we are happy to provide you this portal to share a little bit about what you do.
Thank you. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Laudato Si Part 2.
Sure.
Can I just address this? Irene has said use biodegradable bags. Irene Johnson. Just a word of caution. When they say biodegradable, the plastic actually remains. The bag disintegrates, but maybe up to 95% of the plastic actually remains, and it actually remains as what you call microplastic, and that's even more dangerous. So we have to keep abreast with the science that's going on. Even today, in I think Kuala Lumpur does not allow biodegradable plastics to be used. So just a bit of caution there.
So that's an important point, I think, to remember. Very very often people think that using biodegradable bags is the alternative, and as we don't realize there are also other repercussions to that. So we are coming to an end to our conversation this morning. It's been an hour since we started. We just would like to thank our guests, Glenn. Thanks, Christine, Glenn, Anthony, Bishop Allwyn, all the way from Mumbai. Perhaps
Thanks,
if
Bishop.
there's something that as you want to communicate, as we celebrate the 6th anniversary of the publication of Laudato Si, if there's one message that you want to communicate to our audience, what would that be? In a few words, maybe we start with Christine. What do you want to?
Okay, great connection with Laudato Si. Encyclical says, which I want to remind all of you, that every single creature that He created on earth, every wildlife, no matter how small, how big, they all have a role and a purpose to play for the greater good of the human species. That is something you must always remember. So they affect us. So you have to protect them. So you either be the solution or you continue to be the problem. Your choice.
Beautifully put.
Anthony.
Yeah. I'll share 3 words: stewardship, Khalifa, and the other word is stewardship, Khalifa, and also someone who is taking care. Don't let that responsibility be taken away. So be a steward, be a Khalifa, be a trustee. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
I'm a bit. The second, what's your second word again, Anthony?
Khalifa. That is for those who are from the Islamic background, they will know.
Yeah. Bishop Allwyn.
Yeah, I would like all of us to be interconnected. What do I mean is that if I'm violent with a woman, then I cannot love creation. If I love creation, I cannot disregard the poor person. So everything is interconnected, and therefore we have to show respect and care for all the creatures in the world and for all the insects and animals and birds. Because we cannot compartmentalize, that I love this and I don't love this.
Yeah, I think that's something that for us all to remember, And I think, if you ask me if something that we all can make a difference starting today, I think the simple things from what I've been hearing is that, like what Anthony said, if you're going grocery shopping, take your own bags, use recyclable bags. There's simple things that we can do. Water bottles, this is one of the other areas where we pollute so much. Bring your own water bottle. I think these are little things that we can start doing already, in terms of our waste also. So whether we are confined to our homes, we all may not be an activist in the area of environmental issues, but we all are stewards, as we know that we are all called to care for creation. And I think what I would like to just add is every little bit counts, and I think that's the important thing. Whether it's not about doing it in a large scale or a small scale, but it's about doing something, whether it's small or large, and that impacts all of us. And what happens here in Malaysia, I think, impacts what happens in Mumbai. What happens in Mumbai impacts us, because we all live in this. Now the word is, we live in this global village. It's one big village called Mother Earth that we live in. So I want to thank Bishop Allwyn. Thank you, Bishop Allwyn. I know it was very early morning for you when we started, and you have a busy day. I know you have another program lined up in an hour's time. Thank you very much, Christine, for sharing. Just very quickly, if our audience wants to see your artwork, is there a website that they could go to see all your other pieces? I know you have lots of them. And the website would be?
The website will be christinedas.com, or you can just Google my name, Christine Das, and everything will be.
christinedas.com, and you can see all your great pieces out there. Anthony, thank you so much for making time. It's good to reconnect with you after all these years. And I wish your team all the best to make it to Champions League.
You'll never walk alone, Anthony.
The 4th place is at stake this evening. And Glenn, thank you so much, Glenn, for being with us and hosting with this.
It's a pleasure, Father.
Yeah.
And
so before we
to meet Bishop Alwyn.
Bishop, could we invite you to, as we always do, we conclude with a prayer? Would you honor us with a prayer before we conclude this?
I will take it from number 87 of Laudato Si. When we can see God reflected in all that exists, our hearts are moved to praise the Lord for all his creatures and to worship him in union with them. This sentiment finds magnificent expression in the hymn of Saint Francis of Assisi. Praise be you, my Lord, with all your creatures, especially Sir Brother Sun, who is the day, and through whom you give us light. And he is beautiful and radiant, with great splendor, and bears a likeness of you most high. Praise be you, my Lord, through Sister Moon and the stars. In heaven you formed them clear, and precious and beautiful. Praise be you, my Lord, through Brother Wind, and through the air cloudy and serene, and every kind of weather, through whom you give sustenance to your creatures. Praise be to you, my Lord, through Sister Water, who is very useful and humble, and precious and chaste. Praise be you, my Lord, through Brother Fire, through whom you light the night, and is beautiful and playful and robust and strong. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to all our regular listeners who join us every Saturday morning. Do look forward to seeing you again next Saturday morning, same time at 10:30 for our next episode. Don't forget to like, to subscribe to our video so that you get notifications also. Go to our Facebook page, go to our YouTube channel to subscribe, and you will get notified every time, and I'll get reminded rather just before we come on air every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. And so until then, everyone, have a good weekend. Blessed Pentecost also. It's the Feast of the Pentecost tomorrow, the birthday of the church. Have a good Pentecost celebration wherever you are. We ask that you stay safe during this pandemic also. Thank you, everyone, and see you all soon. God bless.
Thanks for your comments, everyone, also.